Hello everybody, and welcome to Small Riders Diaries. And we've got an important one today. This is a special one, I think, and you'll find out in just a short while. Stick around. It's a lovely day to be a biker, I'll tell you that. Welcome back everyone to Phil Riders Diaries, and today is a very special day because we have finally clicked over the 100,000 mile mark. We are now part of the High Mile Club as opposed to the Mile High Club. I should be so lucky. And so what I thought I'd do is a quick 5 hates and likes about this bike. I could do 50, but I haven't got the time and you wouldn't listen to them all, so narrow it down to the top 5. Da 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 da. You stay there, sunshine. There we go. So what I figured is I'll do the first 5 dislikes. First 5 dislikes. Now, when I say dislike, it's nitpicking really. There's nothing wrong with this bike or any modern bike nowadays. Everything's made to an extremely high standard. But as this bike was made back in 1997, and in itself the design goes back to 1993, I can't expect it to have traction control or ABS or electrically pokery, so I'm not even going to consider anything like that. It's just going to be the bare bread and butter bones of a motorcycle. And I'm going to start off with the brakes. Now, the 2-pot sliding caliper on these brakes are a typical generic Honda design. They work very well, they're a little bit wooden, they need to be maintained tip top to have them working absolutely as best they can, and they need to because it's a heavy old lump this. But at best they are adequate, I suppose. And this is a premium machine. This was a £9,000 price tag back in 1996, which equates to about 15 grand now. And I didn't really expect it to have just some generic 2-pot sliding caliper design. I thought it should have had the 4 pots from the Fireblade, or indeed from the Firestone, which is what it ended up with. And that would have been a much more acceptable setup. That is unreal. That kid can be 8 years old, 9 years old, and they're taking him on the A66. Good lord. So yes, that's my first gripe, I suppose, and it's just that, it's just a gripe. Brakes, not really up to the job. Honda could have done better. So number 2, I would say, would be the suspension, front and back. It's always been on the touring side of sports tourer. The rear shock, it's only adjustable for preload. Got a little bit of damping, it doesn't actually do an awful amount. And the same up front, I've only got preload adjustables on the suspension, and the right way up forks, there's nothing special about them at all. Again, another generic part. You can find the same setup on Firestorms or CBR6s. CBR6s are in fact better, they've got far more adjustability than these have. And the only reasons I can think about this is because Honda were trying to keep the price down. It's no secret that its predecessor, the VF750, was pretty much a flop. I mean, Honda got it wrong in a big way with the triplet cam tensioners. And so the engine was hugely over-engineered, and I can only assume that they kind of cut corners on other parts. So yeah, suspension and brakes, not bad, could be better. Now, one of the big arguments I've got with this bike is the price of everything. Now, Honda, for all their wisdom, seem to like the idea of putting all the expensive stuff on the outside. I'll give you an idea. The front fairing is split into 3 panels on each side, and then you've got a couple of fairing panels that join it down the middle. The top part of this fairing, on this side for instance, £350. Yep, 350 quid. So if you have something as minor as, I don't know, a 10 mile an hour spill, you crack the top plastics, you crack the side plastics, straight away you're looking at 600 quid. Then you got your VAT on top, and then you got your labour and everything else. A trim screw, okay, it's a very nice alloy, or rather a stainless steel quarter turn fairing screw, but they're like 7 quid each plus your VAT. And this is why bikes get written off so easily, because they're beyond economic repair. Everybody knows about Cat Ds and Cat Cs, and it's just not worth repairing a bike that's worth maybe 1,500 quid at a push. If I drop this, it's a write-off. It's as simple as that. It has been repaired a number of times in the past when it was younger, when it held more value, when the insurance companies weren't so quick to pull the trigger on a Cat D or a Cat C. But I can't remember ever having a repair on this bike where it's been a slow speed spill, always under 20 mile an hour, where it hasn't cost at least 15 or 1600 pounds. So I guess that's 3 of my gripes. 4th one, regulators, rectifiers. Now Honda in the 90s suffered almost across the board with these, and basically what happens is that the output from the engine's alternator goes through your reg rec, and that converts it from AC to DC, I think it is, and provides a good 14 and a half volts for your bike to run on. But because of the close proximity of the engine to the reg, and also it's a V4, I mean it generates a lot of heat down here, and with the fairing panels it's all kind of like knocked back into the rear subframe which I sit on, that the regulator's bolted to, and these regulators frequently overheat, and if you're lucky it will just be the reg rec that goes, and if you're unlucky it will take your wiring and maybe your stator at the same time. And there have been all sorts of clever ideas to rectify this problem, and you get people using aluminium heat sinks and heat sink paste and bolting computer fans to the top, and the popular one at the moment seems to be fitting a completely different regulator rectifier from the R1, or using a MOSFET regulator, when really I found that if I kept all my earth points clean, kept the resistance down, it was absolutely fine, or at least it's been fine so far. And it's been 3 years since I've had this back on the road now. 3 years this month actually. So yeah, regulators, rectifiers, every Honda VFR owner knows about them. I'm sure it's not a case of if but when it goes. And my final gripe about the bike, well, what can I say? What don't I like about this? It's going to be a bit of a contentious issue, but it's the power band. Don't get me wrong, the V4 here is a glorious engine. It's the absolute heart of the bike. It's Honda engineering at its best, but it's not an exciting power band. You'll get to about 6 grand and you have a surge of power going right up to about 10. It redlines at 11 and a half. But that's basically it. That's all the thrills and excitement you're going to get from this, is that surge from 6 to 10. Now if you compare that to a regular 4-cylinder inline 4, they don't normally wake up to about 8,000, and they'll rev out to 14 or maybe even 16,000 revs. And this is all over by 10. 11 and a half if you really want to take it over to on the tacho. So yeah, it's a great engine, but it's not an exciting power band. Now personally I don't see that as a bad thing. It makes the engine very usable. But if it's thrills you want, no, I don't think this is the bike for you. This is the bike that's going to be dependable. It's going to be the one that's going to get you there. But as far as thrills go, get yourself a ZX7R or GSXR 750. This one ain't the bike for you. Now that shouldn't take anything away from this motorcycle at all. When I first bought it back in 1997, and it was like I don't know, like a 28th birthday present to myself. I sold my existing bike, that was a Bandit 400. I sold my car, which was a TR8, a Triumph TR8, if anybody remembers those, like a TR7 with a over 3.5 engine in it. And I bought this, and at the time, Bike Magazine, MCN, Ride, Performance Bikes all said this was the best bike in the world. Now I'm sure when people think about the best bike in the world, they think of the most powerful or the fastest or the one that handles best, blah blah blah. But really, all things considered, its reliability, its ergonomics, its build quality, its performance and handling and braking and everything else that goes with it. You know, is it a focus bike? Can it do all those things? And this model in particular, the last of the 750s, was labelled as a jack of all trades and master of quite a few of them. Of course, that doesn't mean a thing there 20 years on. You can pick up a Yamaha for $6,000 and it'll have a triple and it'll have the same power as this and it'll have more torque and it's got radial brakes and it'll do everything better. But back in 1996, this was the numero uno honcho, the big cheese, the top dog. It's a contentious issue, but even though the power band is quite mundane, this engine is absolute gold. It makes this, I don't know if you can hear this, it's almost like a sewing machine sound. It's not the most attractive sound in the world. For that you need a race can to kind of drown it out. But what it does do, it gives this impression that the engine's just owned from granite. It's bomb-proof, bulletproof, indestructible. You can just fill it full of sand and tape the throttle open and it will just run and run and run. The fact it's just clicked over its 100,000th mile should be testament to that. But it's more than that. It's more than just a great unit. It's got power everywhere. When I say that the power band is very mundane, that doesn't mean that it's not usable. It's just more linear. It just grows and grows and grows, whereas a sports bike would have a top end rush, for instance. But this makes usable power from 4,000 revs. And really I could just put this in fourth gear and treat it like an automatic if I really wanted to. It's a glorious unit. Second thing I love about this bike, I think, and I know it's in the eye of the beholder and all that nonsense, I think it's a real looker. The model before it, the RC36, wasn't a bad looking bike itself, very nice. But at the time, Honda had brought out a tech de force called the NR750. Now this was a ridiculously expensive bike. In 1993 it was £39,000 I think it was. Right now you won't get one for less than 60. But to kind of bring that exotica to the masses, Honda took some of the styling cues over from the NR750 and gave it to this, the VFR 750. And it works, it really does. It's a handsome looking machine. I always kind of like think of it as a MILF of motorcycles. You know, it's carrying a bit of extra weight, it's a bit more, you know, chubby now compared to all those size 0 supermodel motorcycles you get now. But you still wouldn't want to ride. Number 3, build quality. Yeah, I know I mentioned about the price of everything and how it was so expensive, but you know, you pay some money, you take the choice, and this is what you get. You get build quality, I think, well, I just think that Honda were really on top of their game in the mid-90s. When you think about it, they had all the classes wrapped up, they really did. From the 500 commuter with the CB500 through to the CBR6 for the Super Sports 600s. This, of course, in the Sports Tourer category. Fireblade was ruling the roost in the superbikes. And then if you really wanted to, you can get an ST1100 Pan-European for a Tourer. You want to go over the top? Fuck it, get a Goldwing. No one does Goldwing better than Honda, obviously. But it was just all there. It was just all there. The paintwork still has that lovely, creamy... There you go, sunshine. You're not looking, are you? Some people. Yeah, the paintwork, it has that lovely, creamy, kind of like molten wax look to it. It's really something special in my eyes. All the alloy castings are good. It's just a lovely thing to have. There we go. Let's see what we've got going on here. Number 2, or number 4, whichever way round you're counting. It's dependable. My God, it's dependable. In the 19 years and 95,000 miles that I've put on this bike, the only thing that's gone wrong is the reg rec. That's it. Nothing else. You've got consumables, of course. It's been through 3 chain and sprocket sets. Only 3 because I use a Scott oiler, which means I get about 30,000 miles out of each chain and sprocket. About 12 sets of tyres. And it's had its valve clearances checked twice. Now, you're supposed to do them every 16,000 miles. Everybody knows in the VFR world that yes, sometimes they do go out of sync, out of alignment, but it's not very often. And the 2 times I've had these checked, I haven't needed any adjustment at all. Now this is a bastard, really, because it's an expensive part of the service, but it has to be done, I suppose, just for that peace of mind. And the last time they were checked was only 10,000 miles ago, so yeah, everything within tolerance. Like I say, engine owned out of granite. And even though it's 20 years old, and even though it's got 100,000 miles, I've got absolute confidence. If I wanted to, I could just jump on this and take it round Europe and just knock up, I don't know, 3,000 kilometres, 1,500 miles, whatever it is, on a whim. It will just do it. Everything works on it. The carburation is superb. There's no flat spots, there's no jerkiness. You can keep your fuel injection units. Mirrors, I can see everything out the back, they don't vibrate. Everything just works. 20 years on, no different from the day I bought it. And finally, I guess, and this is a very personal one, is that it's mine. You know, this is the bike that I chose. This is the one I nailed my colours to the mast. And I said to myself, I remember saying to myself, if I buy this bike, I may never have to buy another bike ever again. Now in hindsight, that sometimes makes me think I've missed out on a world of motorcycling. I've never had the Supermoto, I've never had the Super Sports, I've never bought a Tourer, I've never bought an adventure bike. I just had this. But this World Tour, and you can be sporty on it, and you can go off, well, not off-road, but about as off-road as most of the adventure bikes go off. So when I say it's a jack of all trades and master of some of them, then it's the absolute truth. It's like the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. It just does a lot. But it's also the brake that I rode in and out of work on for how many years? 12 years. It took me to every corner of the country when I was doing the volleyball tournaments. It took me in and out of Europe. It's got hit 5 times. It's been stolen, recovered, returned back to its original identity because it was ringed. It's been dropped on black ice, and it's still here, and it's still looking after me. And I say looking after me because it's still a better bike than I am a rider. I've got like 1/2 inch chicken strips on that back tyre. That's not going to change now. And when we was at the Squires meet a couple of months back, maybe 6 weeks, and I was looking around the car park, and I'm looking at all these Aprilias and Ducatis and MV Augustas, and I thought, oh, I like that. They're going to be faster, they're going to be lighter, they're going to brake better, they'll turn in sharper. The truth is, despite all that extra performance, I really believe I'm unlikely to ride it any different to how I ride this. And then when it came to packing up and going home, I slung a leg over this. It just felt like putting on a suit, and everything was right again. Now, the day I walk away from this bike and don't look back for a final look, maybe that's the day to start thinking about another one. But right now, I don't see why I wouldn't keep this for another 20 years. If I'm still riding in 20 years' time. Maybe 10. Let's call it 10. You don't expect too much from yourself, you don't let yourself down. Right, that's enough of my wafflage. That's my ramblings all over. VFR 750 FV, last of the 750s, clocks over its 100,000th mile. How happy am I? Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you all soon.